All right, hello once again. Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College, and as part of the Rankin Technical College online AWD or Application and Web Development 1100 C# programming class, I've been doing a series of video presentations, mainly based off of the PowerPoint slides for the textbook we have, which is Muroc C# 8th edition, but also I've done a few program videos as well. So we are on Chapter 21 of 22, and we're going over now how to use ADO.net to write your own access code. And ADO.net, ADO is an acronym that stands for ActiveX Data Objects, unless they've changed it, which I do not believe to be the case. All right. So we have here, it looks like, 4 applied objectives and 3 knowledge objectives. First, use a connection to access a SQL Server database. Use a data reader to retrieve data from a database. And that's very important because a data reader, couple things about it. First of all, it's read-only. It's called a reader. Second of all, it's likened to a fire hose, where you turn on a fire hose, and water squirts out. The point is this. If you've got 15 records and you're at the data reader and you're at record 12, you can't go back and look at earlier ones. You can only go forwards. Use data commands to execute action queries or queries that return a scalar value, meaning they return one thing. Action queries are basically going to be inserts, updates, and deletes, where if they work, you'll get something back saying either how many records were affected or something like that. A select is not an action query. A select does not return a scalar value. A select could return a scalar, but a select can also return all records in a table. Use parameters to limit the data that's processed by a data command. Those are our 4 applied, and our knowledge. Describe the use of parameters with SQL statements. With parameters, I think what we're going to see in this chapter is if you want to be able to run the same query a multiple number of times, but let's say on different customers, then the customer name or the customer ID could be a parameter. All right, again, describe the use of a data reader and describe the use of 2 types of queries that do not return result sets. All right. As it says, .NET Data Provider core objects for SQL Server are the connection object, the command object, and the data reader. If you want to use these, you will have to add the using statement using Microsoft.data.sql client in your code. So let's start with a connection string. All right, as it says here, common properties of the SQL connection class are open and close. You must open a connection before you start using it. It's recommended that when you're done using it, you close the connection. All right, things that you can put in here, the data source. So in other words, where is the data being read or retrieved from? Initial catalog or database. Attached DB file name. Some of these we've looked at already. Integrated security. And depending on how you've got yours set up, you might have Windows authentication, which means that if you are logged into your Windows account, you can get to the database. But if you put in SQL Server, basically set it up like that, then you'll need to provide a user ID and or a password, typically both. All right. So here are a couple connection strings for the SQL Server provider. All right, you'll notice the first one says localDB/MS SQL localDB. That's the one I use, but typically localhost will also work, and at least occasionally I've seen it where people just use a period there. All right, but I'm going to use the first one, or at least I think I am. All right. Then attach that database file as opposed to the initial catalog. And again, both of them have integrated security equal true. All right. So you'll notice the connection open, as it says, create the connection and open it. All right. Then the connection is closed automatically when it goes out of scope, but you may not want to have that. You can close it yourself as well. And there may be reasons you want to do that. Here are some common properties of the SQL command class. All right. So connection, command text, command type, and parameters. Here are some methods: execute reader, execute non-query, execute scalar. Here are some enumeration members: text, stored procedure, and table direct. And we're not going to talk about all of these, just so you know. For example, the stored procedure is basically like you writing a mini program in your program, so you're able to do some of the stuff. I don't think we're going to go into that at all. All right, so we're setting up a string, and notice what that string has in it. It has our SQL query, which says we would like to select the customer name, the customer ID, the customer's name, the customer's address, the customer's city, the customer state, the customer's zip code from customers. All right, we set that up. Then, as it says, we set up a connection. All right, and then notice for that connection, we pass into that. All right, we're going to create an SQL command object, and we're going to pass into that query that we just created. All right, now with the parameter, again, this is very much similar to what I told you just a little bit ago. And that is when you use the @ sign like that with customer ID, what that means is this could be through a drop-down list or something else, but you could run this query multiple times, as you know, and at least in theory, if you wanted to do so, you could provide a different customer ID each time. Okay. All right, and you can do it like this too. So this is inserting. Now, why would you want to do something like this? Because the @name, @address, @city, @state, and @zip code, for example, could be coming from text boxes. Okay. All right, here's an update, same kind of thing. And a delete, same kind of thing. All right. So I have not taken the time to go back and look at all this stuff again. It's been a while since I've given a lecture like this one. But we'll go in and we'll look at some of the common methods of the parameters collection. All right. I already showed you an example of this. All right. And there, again, notice what we're adding. We're adding the customer ID, and we're letting the system know the type of variable it is. Then we are assigning it or setting it to the customer ID. All right. So this one adds it to the parameters collection. This one sets the value. This one does both of them together. We've seen this before, where you can have int age, and then later you can put age equal 21, or you can just say int age equal 21. That type of an idea. All right. Common command behavior enumeration members: close connection, default, and single row. Is closed. Close and read. All right, so if we look at these, and I mentioned this before, when you execute a reader like that, the example that they show here, all right, that is in the yellow, that is going to be a read-only connection, so it'll give you information back, all right, but it's not designed itself in that block of code to let you change any data. I'm not saying you couldn't come down below and change it. All right. So code that executes a command and returns a single value. Again, notice the word scalar on there. They are assuming a single value. All right. Now, they've got this with a select. All right. Select sum. But notice this is a scalar because it's going to return the sum of all of the invoices. So whenever your return is going to be one thing, you can work with scalars then. That's why I said you can do that, but you cannot do that, all right, with a select, because it is possible for a select to have more than one thing returned. So here's an execute non-query. And you might think, wait a minute, what do you mean non-query? Non-queries, I believe the way they're set up is they come back with a scalar value. All right, so this would come back if your insert worked, and it would say one record inserted. All right, this is back in our customer maintenance form and our add. We looked at this before, and our delete. Those were all looked at before. All right, and believe it or not, this is going to be another short lecture because we're only 10 minutes into it, and I've only got about 10 PowerPoints to go. All right. So again, we can look at this and it's got our connection. So we're connecting to the MMA books. All right. And we're coming in here, and notice with the find customer, all right, we are just ideally at least returning one customer. And it's possible to return null, and that's for the question mark there. All right, and we're using a parameter right there. And I mean, again, I'm not going to run through all this code right now. Sorry, I'm just not going to do it. All right. So let's finish up. And when we finish up, one thing I do want to show you, and let's see, I don't know if I even still have it on here. I may have to go find it, but let me look here. And that is, I wanted to show you something before I forget about it. So let's go back to the desktop, and I'll have to search. And what is it? I'm just going to search for a while just for MySQL. I know why I'm doing that, but okay. And we'll see if I find what I'm looking for. Okay. All right. When I come back then, because I am now finished with chapter 21, I'll be on chapter 22, which is it's a little longer than the last one. Now, this is going to talk about how to use a data grid view. The reason I mentioned I wanted to show you this program is I'm going to show you a program that I wrote, and it's based on a class, an online class that I took years ago where we used a data grid view. All right. And the idea will be, if I can find that, all right, let's see. Bad thing. Yeah, that's it. I want MySQL tester, and I'm hoping this is the right one. All right, we'll find out in just a moment. MySQL tester. I'm going to guess that is the one I want. But we'll find out in a second. Let's copy it. There it is. This is not exactly what I want, but we'll see if it'll work. All right. Bring this up. Okay, and like I said, I'm not sure if this is going to be working or if this is the one I want or it's not. Now, I have to quickly check project properties. I think it'll be running the older one, the 4. Okay, we can move it up to 4.8 or 4.8.2. I don't know. If I run this, I don't know if it's going to compile. I think it will. All right, this is something, I wrote a while ago. So, yeah. Let's see, show products page. and it says cannot attach because I don't have the database. So this is not the one I want. I'm going to stop so you don't have to watch me fumble here. But I've got a tester program that I want to show you. This is not it. All right, and let me close this. All right, and I'm going to remove it. I'm going to find it, and we'll look at that at the end of the next chapter. I'll be back shortly.